I think I made my first custom toy maybe about 7 or 8 years ago and started taking it more seriously a few years after that, doing it kind of as a job for the last 5 years. I still collect old Nintendo stuff, and I came across Death by Toys. At the time he had a different screen name, but Dan Polydoros, and he's a custom toy artist. And he made a Mega Man toy, and I was just super interested in it. I didn't get that he had made it. I looked into it, and he was offering up the recipe and the how-to on how to make it and everything, and so I went on his site and thought maybe I'd make my own, but it seemed a little complicated for me at the time, so I ended up backing off of it. But fast forward a few months, and then he made some more Nintendo toys, and I bought all of them. And when I got them, I got really inspired, and then I reached out to Dan and said, I'd like to take a crack at this, and he walked me through and helped me get the materials and get started. My name's Dano Brown. I'm an artist from the desert in California and a collector. I'm probably best known for being a toy artist. When I found Dan online, Death by Toys, he had a lot of information available about how he was doing this stuff, and what it was, I didn't know at the time, is kit bashing. He was taking the arms of one figure and the head of another figure and Frankensteining them into something completely new and different. And I'd never seen anything like that before. And I understood the basics of how he was doing it, and I understood the packaging because I had already played around a lot in Photoshop. But as far as the actual figures, I understood he was piecing things together, but I didn't understand how. And so I had a lot of trial and error at first, just trying to get things to work. A lot of glues that didn't hold, a lot of adhesives that fogged up and obscured the bubble. A lot of problems. And then eventually started getting closer, reached out to Dan, and he gave me more detailed information on what to use. And that really helped with my process and making things actually stay together and work. When I first started, it was 100% me making things for my own self, for my own collection. I wanted things to hang on my wall with my Nintendo collection, things that nobody else had. And at first I was reaching out to Death by Toys and just really trying to have him make everything I wanted. And he's a regular guy with a regular job and a family, and he couldn't make everything. So I started trying to make my own. And I did, and I started making a whole bunch and hanging them on my wall, and they got better as I went. And eventually people on my Instagram would see them. I already had a decent following for my Nintendo collection, so a lot of those Nintendo guys would see them and they wanted them, and they would offer to buy them, but it was usually like 40 bucks or 50 bucks they'd offer. And I would think about, I worked on that thing for a couple days and I really like it for myself, and so I would turn down all offers. And then at some point, maybe about a year in, someone offered me what I considered at the time a sizable amount for my Paperboy action figure. I couldn't turn it down, and I sold it. At the time, I was working a job I really didn't like. I didn't make very much money. I sold it for about what I made at my crappy job in a day for making a toy, and that's when the light bulb went off, and I started thinking, well, maybe I'll see if I could sell these other ones for as much. And so I started selling all the ones that I had built for myself. I started selling them off and using that money to build more, thinking that I was just going to replace them for myself. And that slowly turned into people reaching out with their own ideas, and that's where I'm at now. Most of my clients are just random people who find me online or find a picture of one of my pieces online, track me down, and they have their own ideas. They want maybe someone from their favorite movie or video game, or a lot of times maybe they want their dad or their boss or something to give to someone as a special, unique gift, and they'll hire me on commission. And that's where most of my work comes from these days, is people reaching out with an idea that they want made. I'm proud of a lot of my work for different reasons. I mean, there's some projects. I worked with a documentary called Have a Nice Trip about psychedelics. It was on Netflix. They hired me to make figures for each of the different psychedelic drugs. And I just thought this is such a neat thing to be a part of. I didn't get a whole lot of recognition. Probably most people that saw those figures didn't even know I made them. But to be a part of something like that felt really cool. So I was proud of it in that way. Then there's ones I'm proud of, like I made a Jim Henson toy that got a lot of love, and people still reach out and ask about to this day. It was years ago. And I personally love Jim Henson. I personally felt like I did a good job. People loved it. So I'm really proud of that one in that way. There's ones that I just think I did a good job at, like I did the Happy Mask Salesman from the Zelda games. I'm not a huge fan of Legend of Zelda, but the toy itself took a lot of creativity and took a lot of thinking outside the box. I built the whole backpack on his back with all the different individual masks attached to it, and it was just pieced together from all kinds of different stuff. And it turned out really nice. As far as what I'm known for, I think I'm known for more of my silly stuff. I did a naked Mario a few years ago that showed full frontal, and I packaged it as if it were a legitimate Nintendo release, and then I didn't put my name anywhere on it, and I put it online, and I specifically asked people, don't credit me if you share this, don't put my name on it. I wanted to pretend like it could possibly be real, and that spread really fast. And eventually it did come back to me, and now a lot of people ask me about that. I ended up doing a little interview about that, but I fooled a whole bunch of people into thinking that Nintendo officially released a naked Mario toy. So I'm pretty known for that one. I also did a lot of weird McNugget toys a couple years ago from the Happy Meals. And so a lot of people really tie me to the Nugget toys. I haven't really been doing that in a while, but I still am constantly getting tagged in Nugget art and Nugget clothes and anything Nugget related, just McDonald's in general. People really tie that to me now. I'm definitely a collector, and I've always been a collector. I collect a lot of things. My main focus for the last 12, 13, 14 years has been Nintendo, specifically NES, the original Nintendo. And I'm trying to get a complete collection of all the games. I'm missing 2 games, but they're thousands of dollars, so I don't know if I'll ever have them. I collect Bic lighters, but only the ones that are printed on. I collect records. I collect fast food stuff sometimes, like Jack in the Box and Burger King, McDonald's. But most what I'm passionate about is Nintendo, still to this day. I'm trying to complete a lot of mini collections within my Nintendo collection. I want all of the religious games. I want all of the licensed games. I would like to have every box to the console. There's the action set, the control deck. I would like to have all the cardboard. That's where most of my focus is as far as collecting. And I've always been a collector. Even as a little boy, I collected the homies from the 50-cent machines. I collected G.I. Joes. I collected Pogs. And I remember, you know, like the G.I. Joes, my brother and I, he's a couple of years younger, he would play with his G.I. Joes and I would put mine to the side, and I would like to keep them all together, and I would get upset when they weren't together. I liked the collecting aspect of it. It's just part of who I am. I like to accumulate things. Most of the games in the NES library are kind of just known for not being that great. The good ones, you already know about them. There's the Mario games, Kirby, Contra, and those games I do play. The game I play the most is Bases Loaded. It's a baseball game that I've been playing since I was a little kid. I'm very competitive about it, and my brother comes over, we play. I don't play 80% of my games probably because they're just not really that fun. For me, again, it's always been more about collecting. I do still play. I beat Tyson's Punch-Out. I beat Contra. I beat all the Marios. I put some time in, but most of what I focus on is actually accumulating the games, cleaning them, organizing them, alphabetizing them, and hopefully eventually completing them. I have a couple things in my collection that are extra special to me for different reasons. I have the original bootleg Mega Man toy that I bought from Death by Toys. That is the one that inspired my toy art completely, and I feel like literally changed my life. So sentimentally, it's just very important to me. I think it's a great piece of art too, and still holds up. And then I have other things that are really important to me for other reasons. I have the Sharp NES TV. It's a Sharp TV with a NES built into it. That's something that I had been trying to get since my first year of collecting, but they're so hard to get because they just didn't make a lot of sense when they came out. They're really bulky and they're heavy, and for the price you pay, you could buy an NES and a better TV back in those days. So they didn't sell well, and they're just really hard to come by. And I had been trying for years to get one, and they go for way more money than I was willing to pay. And a few years ago, I met a guy who's a great friend now, VHS Crypt, guy Chris. I bought a bunch of old Nintendo stuff off of him, and he said, would you be interested in a Sharp TV? And I said, oh, of course, I just can't afford it. And he said, well, what about trading for art? And I said, let's do it. So I did a few art projects for him, and now I own a Sharp TV, and it's definitely one of my grails, one of the most valuable things I have, and one of the things that I spent the most time trying and hoping to acquire that felt the best when I finally did. I love creating, and I always have. My favorite part of creating is when I get the good results, especially if it's something funny, if it's something where I'm getting laughs. That's the stuff that I like the best. My most popular things I didn't sell, like the Naked Mario, I gave that away for free, and I've done a couple like meme-based toys that I just give away because it's not about the money for those ones. Those ones for me are about making people laugh, creating something that I thought of. But most of what I do is more like straight work, getting hired to make a certain thing, making that thing, collecting the money, and moving on to the next job. That part is a little less exciting, but equally as important. I'm very proud of what I've done with art. I did not grow up dreaming to be a professional artist or anything. I always just made art for fun because I enjoyed it, and I enjoy talking to other creative people, so I've always felt like I was an artist, but I never dreamed that I'd be making money, especially enough money to, you know, change my life, quit my job, you know, the things that I've been able to do, get a couple nice interviews or magazine spreads, things that never even crossed my imagination have happened. And so I'm very proud of what's happened. Although a lot of it does sometimes feel a little bit like dumb luck. The truth is I've never stopped grinding. So I do feel like I've earned it also, and that makes me feel really proud. As far as my collection, I'm proud in a whole different way. My collection is one of the only things in my life that is for me. And I love to show it off, and I like when people like it, and it's exciting when I see people see all my stuff for the first time, but it's always for me. I buy the stuff that I like. I don't display anything that I don't like. I order art from the artists that inspire me. I buy toys from the sellers that I like. It's all just so much me. I'm proud of it in a different way because I feel like over my entire lifetime, really, I've done a really careful job of curating all this stuff that might not look like anything special to anyone else, and might even look a little strange to someone else walking in and seeing all the things I've collected. But to me, it's just a story of all the things that I wanted that I was able to get. I mean, and honestly, that's kind of how it started. You know, just being a grown-up with a job and finally being able to afford the things that I couldn't get when I was a kid. And then that just kind of snowballing into like, well, what if I just get all the things I want? You know, what if I just keep trying to get them all? Because I'm not collecting Rolexes or anything. It's all attainable if you're willing to do the treasure hunt for it, and you're willing to wait it out and wait for the deals and talk to the people and make the trades. And I enjoy that part of it. So my collection to me is a physical representation of a lot of work and thought that I've done over the last 15 years specifically, but really my entire life. I mean, some of the things in this collection are things that I've had since childhood. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, all under Dano Brown. Instagram is definitely the best place to find me, though. I'm not active at all on TikTok, and then on Twitter, I'm more just stalking other people. My Instagram is where I post all my business stuff, all of my art stuff, and even a lot of personal, family, and hobby stuff that doesn't have to do with art. I'll create until I die, for sure. As far as custom figures, I will do it as long as people want me to. I think if and when this ends and people lose interest and stop ordering commissions from me or stop buying the things I make, I probably will revisit my original idea of making Nintendo-based toys for my own collection to hang on my own wall, and then I'll call it. I don't wake up with the desire to make figures of movies and people that I don't know. I just like to make the things I like to make, and so I will always do that. But as far as making figures, once I make everything that I need for my own collection, I'll stop unless people keep hiring me. It's the best job ever that I've ever had, and I can't imagine a better one. So if people keep reaching out and saying, hey, I will pay you to make this for me, I'll do it until my hands won't work anymore.